Hello, I'm Crickets and welcome back to I Have a Story. I'm going to take a break from some of the hard things that I've been talking about, that I've been dealing with lately, and not that this one's exactly easy, but it's still another tale to tell. And that was my last saddle ride with Ralph Patrick, the man. I'll link videos here that terrible what all happened to him, including being murdered by a person, and the person who went into his house. A woman in her mid-30s goes into a 73-year-old man's house in the middle of the night, tries to rob him, shoots and kills him, but our system doesn't consider that murder. I don't know what the hell is anything. I don't know. The laws, what does any of it mean anymore? Obviously nothing. I know about multiple murders that took place here that don't get put in the books as murder. I'll bring some more of those stories in the future. Let's try to talk a little more enlightening here. So Ralph, I talked about how he had, prior to getting married, bought a house, a property, redid the whole thing, bought the property next door, had a horse stable, barn, and he had his horses there. When he got divorced, she got the house, he got the property with the horses. But every time he'd go over there every day to water the horses. And now when the properties are set up, the house is over here, the barn and the stable, ow, my shoulder. The barn and the stable are way over on the other side. And where you go into the house, you go on this side of the property, and the barn, you went on the opposite side of that property. You truly could hardly even, especially in the summertime when brush is grown up, you couldn't even hardly see the house from the barn. But yet when he'd go over to water the horses, she kept calling the cops. There's a guy out here with a gun threatening and harassing me. And the cops would show up, and then they would threaten and harass Ralph. And Ralph's like, look, there's no gun. Look, you can search the whole property, search my truck. I don't even have a gun. How am I over there stalking her with a gun? But again, our systems don't care. That's again, those are serious crimes to call the police. And again, it's committing a crime to falsify reports and try to get people falsely arrested, especially on threatening people with gun charges. My ex-wife's doing it, his ex-wife did it, and we're innocent victims who get to pay for it all. So the judge told him, you ever step foot on that property again, we're going to have you arrested. Wait, he was the victim. Why is he being treated like the criminal? Judge told him, don't you ever step foot on that property again. She calls one more time, we're arresting you. Well, you should be arresting her because she's the one committing the crimes. None of that matters here. Our systems don't want to deal with nothing. Damn the man, that's it. We don't want murders on the books here because that might make our community look bad, or they might have to do their job, so they don't go down in the books as murder. No, look, the woman who murdered him, not found guilty. You can go into a 73-year-old man's house in the middle of the night, try to rob him, shoot and kill him, and you're not guilty. God, this is unbelievable. All right, let's try to get back on a positive track here. God, it's so hard for me to be positive in a world that is so negative. So Ralph was 70 years old. If you go back in my video and listen to my ex-wife yelling at me for helping my neighbor, because I help my community, and that makes me a horrible person. I'm such an evil monster that I help everybody in need that I see. You don't even have to ask me. I just show up and help. And I have the knowledge that others don't to help them, even if I physically can't do what I would wish I could. So at 70 years old, Ralph finally got out from child support debt that was double what it should be, and he was homeless. He had nowhere, he was working full time. And all the court systems want to do is tell you, go get another job, work more. That's all you are, is a slave. A slave to the woman who abused you. That's what our systems call it. That's how they see it. Even though you're the victim, you're going to be treated like the criminal. While the criminals keep getting away with severe, even felonies or murder. My God, this is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane to me. So at 70 years old, Ralph finally got back on his feet, got a house. I think it was 68 when he bought the house. 68 years old, finally getting back on his feet after being abused by his ex-wife, being abused by the system, and even being abused by his sister. I've heard that story too. It's devastational what this does to people. It destroys people's lives. But yet our system don't care. Even though it's their whole entire job to care, they don't. Titles and paychecks. So you go back and listen to that video. I was where I got yelled at by my ex-wife for, at the time she was my wife, for helping my neighbor. I was helping him put up his horse fencing, and built basically it was a small garage, oversized shed, built it all so that he could have horses again. And he finally got horses. He had 3 of them, and 2 of them were very old horses that he got really cheap because they were really old. They were service horses here on Mackinac Island, and they were retired. And he picked up another horse called Bullet. And the horse got its name Bullet because, and nobody knows what the actual story is or how it happened, but the horse had gotten shot right in the side of the nose right here, and there was a wound, a scar from it, and the horse lived and got the name Bullet. So it was the first time he had just got that horse, and it was the first time he was going to ride it. And I happened to be the straw that broke the other horse's back. But I'll tell you, this is one of a real eye-opener to me from living in the country life and going back to the city. Once people turn 65 in the city, it's like, oh my God, I'm scared, I'm old, I might get hurt, and they're afraid to do anything. People here in their 70s are riding snowmobiles and four-wheelers and horses and still living life like a human being and not a fear-mongering person who wants to just lock down because they're scared. People here still live. They're still strong and they're still healthy. People here in their 70s still cutting firewood and heating their home entirely by wood and splitting it all with an axe. It's amazing. It's amazing the different aspect and the health benefits of it all, mentally and physically. So I got up on the horse's back that I was riding, and Ralph got up on the Bullet's back. Well, we found out Bullet did not like to be ridden. And through Ralph, I'm sitting on a horseback, and I had to look up and watch him go up in the air. I don't know how high he went, but on top of a horse's back is already about 6 feet. He went higher than that. And when he came down, he landed on a pile of rocks, big rocks, and it split his arm open. And he was bleeding. Did he lay there and cry? I was panicked. Oh my God, Ralph, 71, I think, at the time when we went to go for this ride. Even me living the city life most of my life, I had the mentality of, oh my God, he's 71 years old. This might have killed him. No, he sprung back to his feet and grabbed that horse and said, nope, we're putting it away. Nobody's ever riding this horse, and he ended up selling it because he wanted a safe horse. That was not a safe horse. It was a troubled horse. We spent a little time with it and couldn't get the horse to settle down. So he ended up selling that one. I can't believe how strong that man was. But the horse that I got on the back of, the next morning we found that horse passed away in the stall. That's what made me feel like the straw that broke the horse's back. Because that horse, the next morning, was not alive. So we didn't actually get to go for a saddle ride. We didn't make it, but standing outside the gate of the fence, and that was what all took place. But there's a lot of stories to learn just from this one. One aspect of how people here, when they get older, they don't sit there and cry and say, I can't. They don't sit there and have the mentality, I'm going to get hurt. They still live life. Talking about all this systematic abuse here. Again, so many stories just in his life. And it's all wrong. It's all illegal. But this is what happens. This is the real world we live in. He was one of the best men I ever knew. Even how he could get murdered. And it's not even considered a murder here.